Hello, everyone. I'm Alan Potcotter, and you're listening to Call Talk for August 5th, 2020. Today's topic is pivoting from the office to remote, making it work. If you're listening live, we invite you to be part of the show and ask questions. Here's how you do it. Email me at calltalk@benchmarkportal.com. I want to remind everyone that all of our shows are archived and available to listen to at benchmarkportal.com any time of the day. And now with that, I would like to introduce the host of the show, Bruce Belfiore.
Thank you, Alan, and welcome back to Call Talk, everyone. Well, for many companies, shifting to remote call centers due to COVID-19 wasn't as simple as just flipping a switch. And that's why we wanted to bring our Call Talk audience some more good information about the shift to remote contact centers. And we brought in an expert on the topic for you, Fabrice Martin, CPO at Clarabridge. And Fabrice has a really interesting background. He has a French father, Mexican mother. He grew up in Mexico, and so his mother tongue is Spanish. His father tongue is French. He brings a multicultural view to the things that he does. So Fabrice, bienvenido to the show.
Merci beaucoup. Muchas gracias, and a pleasure to be with you guys.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, let me just ask you, Fabrice, what language do you dream in?
Oh, wow. I've been living in the U.S. for more than 20 years, so I really think I dream in English, believe it or not.
Very good. No, I believe that. When I lived in Italy, I dreamt in Italian, so that doesn't surprise me. Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
Well, we're really happy to have you on the show, Fabrice. And Fabrice is responsible for the vision, roadmap, and go-to-market strategy for the Clarabridge CX Suite of products. And he brings more than 2 decades of experience launching new products and business applications focused on solving large, complex analytical problems and delivering valuable insights for managers like the folks who are on this show. So, Fabrice, a question on the mind of many managers who have had to transition quickly because of COVID-19. For companies who decide to remain remote past COVID-19, what are some of the things they need to consider in regards to the contact center? In other words, can contact centers remain remote long-term without negatively impacting the customer experience?
That's a great question, Bruce, and I think that there are many things to consider to your first question, right? The second question we'll address as we go, but I think the first thing to consider is that the definition of a contact center tends to be broad, right? A lot of folks think about calls. It was even called the call center, but it has evolved to be a contact center because there's many ways that customers nowadays have dialogues and conversations with companies, right? And more and more, we're seeing a big rise in digital channels, right, that go beyond calls. And of course, there's the digital voice over IP way to have calls, but there's also chats, there's messaging, there's social media, direct messaging. All of those channels are becoming more and more important when it comes to, again, interactions and conversations between customers and companies, and they are more and more being handled by the contact center as well. So when it comes to really thinking of a more permanent remote contact center, it is important to have very strong digital channel capabilities, and again, I mean chats and emails and social media and messaging, and a very strong backbone to support them. And by that, I mean the ability to offer a continuous, ideally a seamless experience to customers that might be hopping from one of those channels to another, but the companies who are setting up these contact centers need to make sure that hop is seamless, right? And if they're chatting with the company and then they move to SMS or they move to call, the company is able to make that switch and continue the experience very seamlessly. So those are very important aspects. Now, to the second part, right, remaining remote without negatively impacting customer experience, There are many aspects to that, but one of the aspects that I think is often overlooked, but it is very important, is that employees are very important, right? It's an adage or a known thing, a known fact that happy employees tend to make happy customers, right? So making sure that those remote contact center employees, those agents that are working from home or from remote locations, are happy, are engaged. That is very important to that continuity and great customer experience. So listening to the voice of the employee, making sure that you have a good pulse of where the different agents and contact center staff are is going to be essential to maintaining that, again, positive, engaging customer experience.
Hello, Bruce, you still there?
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry about that. So I think those are all great points, Fabrice. And there's, the fact is that today's contact center is so much more multi-channel than in the past. And, I think in terms of TTM, which is that you have to have the right technology to make it work. You have to have the right training so that people know how to make the technology work well. And you also have to have the motivation. The M is the motivation, so that it all works out together. So, that's really, really important, and all the more important when you have an organization that is thinking of remaining remote over a long period of time, or perhaps forever. And then we'll also get into things like screening and hiring, another thing that is very important. Well, with so many agents confined to their homes due to COVID-19, how can companies avoid disruptions to their center operations and their customer experience? Could you just give us a little bit more of your thoughts and insights on that, Fabrice?
Yeah, absolutely, Bruce. And there's a few aspects to this. So I would break it into a few parts, right? And the first one is avoiding disruptions, as you mentioned, right? And we have seen you're hearing an ambulance pass. That is part of working from home. So I'm going to let it go through. You can see that this is live, just happening in real time. So first thing is to avoid disruptions. We're seeing a big move of contact center infrastructure to cloud-based systems, right? Cloud-based systems have the ubiquity and presence that really change the game and basically enable anyone with a good internet connection to be an active, productive, contributing employee, right? Whether it's the contact center or any other aspect of a modern corporation. So that move of all critical systems, including contact center, backbone, and operational systems to the cloud, is an important ingredient to avoiding disruptions to the contact center. And then, assuming that everything is there and everything is operational, I think when it comes to customer experience, it is very important to have strong measurement frameworks for the operations and for customer experience, and strong quality assurance, quality management methods, right? Because it's not only important to make sure that, for example, contact center agents are saying the right things or solving customers' problems, but one ingredient I would add, because we're talking about customer experience, is really tracking things such as, for example, customer effort or customer emotions. And I'm a big fan of a framework. I didn't invent it. It's a framework that the first time I heard of it, it comes from Forrester Research, and they talk about the 3 E's of customer experience. It's effectiveness, ease, and emotion. And I really like that framework when it comes to customer experience, because if you think about effectiveness, that's what most people think about, quality control, etc. Effectiveness is making sure that the customer is getting value by offering the right product or service, right? So most programs tend to track this, and they track it very well. But then the second E is really making it easy for the customer to do business with the company, right? And the easier the experience, the more long-term loyalty you will have from customers, right? And we've all experienced this. If a company makes it very hard to do business with them, whether it's to buy their product, find it, find the price, return it, that tends to have an impact on loyalty, right? So important to track it. And then the third E, which is emotion, which is you gave the customer the right value. You made it easy for that customer to do business with you. But even better, what if you make that customer feel really good about doing business with you, right? So tracking that emotion will have a big impact on long-term loyalty and overall customer experience. So I like when I see those three being monitored and measured consistently.
Right. No, those are great points. I love the three E's too that you mentioned. And, you know, when you think about those elements, effectiveness, ease, and emotion, all of them, we need to have measures of them. How do you actually measure effectiveness? How do you measure ease? How do you measure the emotion? And so that becomes really, really interesting as a conversation. And you can imagine, Fabrice, at BenchmarkPortal, where we deal with metrics all the time, and how do you measure things, and what are the best practices that you can then use to try to move the dial, that there's some really, really interesting conversations that come up on this. And, you know, there are effectiveness measures that you can have, which include, you know, things like overall, not for the individual agent, but for the center overall, what's your average speed of answer? How many times do you have to put people on hold? What's the percentage of dropped calls or abandoned calls? All of those things which have to do with the quality or the effectiveness, and many more. And then the ease, which, you know, in terms of how easy is it, you know, those are the kinds of things you definitely have to ask the customer about. And that's a customer effort score type of thing. I imagine you'd see that there. Is that correct, Fabrice?
That's right. That's right. There's a method to this, the customer effort score, and the beauty of effort is that it can be calculated based on a survey, which would be the traditional way to do customer effort score, but you can also infer it from data, right? So from the fact that customers might be having to hop channels multiple times, that is effort, right? The fact that a customer calls 3-4 times for the same thing and have to explain again why they're calling, again, that's effort, right? Even the things that the customers say and tell the agent, whether it's on a chat or on a call, again, will have a reflection of the effort, right? If the customer says in the call, oh, man, this is the third time I'm calling and you still haven't been able to solve my issue, again, that's an expression of effort. So there's many ways to infer it, but very important to track it, as you just said, Bruce.
Yeah, no, very important. And then the emotion part actually tends to flow from the first two E's, because if the effectiveness is really good and the ease is good, then the emotion tends to be good as well. And the emotion is where you're building loyalty as well. That's sort of the sense that you're doing business with the right people, you like the business that you're doing with them, and you're validating your choice of doing business with the company. So it's actually a sort of a patting yourself on the back as well when you have that emotion of, wow, that was a good interaction. I'm really glad I'm dealing with XYZ insurance company or something like that. So those are all great things, knowing how to measure them, how to improve them. You know, I think we could have another Calls Talk episode just on that, Fabrice, sometime in the future. So
I would
really
love
good
to.
stuff. Okay,
very
good.
Those are near and dear to me. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, just continuing on with our original area of inquiry here, with the challenges of dropped calls and audio issues, okay, that came with many contact centers that had to push people out to their homes, etc. On other digital channels such as social media, chatbots, and more. What type of insights can companies gather from leveraging these additional channels?
Absolutely. So there's a few things to consider here, right? And I would say if we take a step back, if it's about insights, most companies today want to build really an integrated and holistic view of customer experience, right? They don't want to have siloed views of the customer, like the interaction on the website and the interaction on calls or the interaction on the mobile application, right? They want to see the customer journey, if I'm introducing a term here, as a continuum, and that's how customers see their experiences with companies, right? So we're all trying to build that unified, integrated, holistic view of the customer, and the types of insights that can be obtained from looking at these channels can be important because if we go back to the example that I gave you a few minutes ago, right? If I'm calling and I say, this is the third time I'm calling and you still haven't been able to solve my problem, that conversation and understanding that conversation might give you a lot of insights about other aspects of the journey. Maybe that customer is calling because they're trying to find an answer to a change in their policy, right? This is happening a lot during COVID-19. Policies are changing. Customers are trying to look for moratoriums or those types of things, and that information might be really hard to find on a mobile app or on the website, and therefore they need to call. So there might be a lot of interesting hints and insights about other operational aspects of the business that are going to come from that phone call, right? So maybe they discover that the issue is on the website, and if they fix the issue on the website, they're going to eliminate all of those calls that are coming to the contact center. So high value if you're able to extract those insights from contact center conversations.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Those are great insights. And actually, you know what I'd like to do is to move to some questions that I think Alan has. Alan, do you have a couple questions there for Fabrice?
Yes, the first one is from Marie, and she's asking, I have 5 supervisors reporting to me who are struggling with doing their work remotely. Any ideas for them?
That's a great question. Don't we all feel the same these days?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very practical, down-to-earth question from Marie, so that's great.
Absolutely. So I would say this, right? With the current process and situation, I think it's easy to get lost, get a little bit disoriented, right? Every day feels the same. You wake up, you go to the computer, you check your email, you start a phone call or a Zoom session, etc. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they all feel the same, right? So that struggle, again, is the one that I think we all feel. But what I would say is it's important to stay grounded as an employee, as a manager, and make sure that you and your employees are grounded, connected to the core mission, to the company culture. And the way I do that with my team is that I talk to my team as a group and also on a one-on-one basis at least once a week. Right? At least once a week, I take the pulse of everybody and keep everybody informed in terms of what is going on with their lives, with my life, with the company, with the business, where we are as a team, what we are collectively aiming for and working on. So keeping everybody well-informed, grounded, and connected to the mission, I think is motivating, and I have seen it work really well in terms of folks that would otherwise be struggling.
Mm-hmm. No, I think those are great pieces of advice and insights there, Fabrice and Marie. I might add a couple of things too, and that is that, you know, we're all going through this together. You've heard that before, but it really is true. And so one of the things that I think managers need to do is just to be open about that with the people who report to them. Don't try to be a superhero who has all the answers immediately, but do have something that's really important, which is empathy. Now think about it. The supervisors and the trainers are all trying to get the agents to show empathy, right? I don't think there's enough emphasis put on call center managers to show empathy. So you as a manager, Marie, need to show empathy for your supervisors, and through the kind of contact that Fabrice was just talking about, find out from them, what it is that's disturbing them, what their challenges are, etc., and they will feel more connected to you as a result. In fact, there are situations where people end up feeling more connected in a remote setting when they open up to each other and show that empathy than they did back in the call center, because that was kind of business as usual. So as long as you use the opportunity to really show the empathy to your supervisors and then coach them in how to show empathy for their agents, who should then be showing empathy for their callers, many of whom are having challenges and impacts depending on the industry that you're in because of COVID as well, then that chain of empathy can be extremely important, I think, to help you to do a better job in terms of managing those supervisors. So, we see a real increase in interest in coaching training right now. And it's understandable, because coaching has become extremely important in terms of holding things together and, sort of cementing or knitting relationships that are going to be extremely important. So anyway, thank you for that question. Anything else you wanted to add to that, Fabrice? Otherwise, we can go on to the next question.
Nothing other than I completely agree, right? That empathetic approach goes a long way in creating that connection and grounding to the mission.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Marie, for that question. Alan?
Yes, the next one we have is from Chris, and he is asking, recruiting and hiring remotely feels weird. What are best practices in this area?
Great question, Chris. So I cannot claim to be an expert in hiring, but I have had a few experiences during this pandemic and before, so I can at least offer what I have seen work. And Bruce, I'm sure you'll complement that too. So first thing is that I think you need to make sure you have a good understanding of the type of person you are looking for when you're going to be doing some hiring, right? And of course, it's going to be over the phone, it might be over Zoom, but you want to understand not only the professional credentials that you're looking for, but also the fit in the organization. Do you want a person who is very talkative? Do you want a person who is more introverted? Do you want a person who is self-motivated? Do you want a person who loves being part of a team, right? You have to make those considerations part of the process of defining the profile of the person that you want to go. And once you start the interview process, you're going to have different people interviewing this potential candidate. Make sure that you assign tasks to each interviewer, right? One person is going to be assigned to probing for, again, emotions, or is this person introverted or extrovert? Another might be scanning for, again, professional credentials, etc. But you want to make sure that each interviewer, beyond trying to connect to that individual, also is looking for one of those specific criteria that you define in your profile. And ideally, after you finish that process, you will have a few candidates that are really good matches based on this process. So I've seen that work with my hiring, and they have resulted in good team members and again, good contributors to the culture.
Yeah. Okay. Great inputs there. And I would just add to that also see if there are some tools that you can find that help you to find the kinds of people that you need in terms of using technology for that. There's some really good products out there now that help with screening for technical skills. You want to make sure somebody can keyboard properly. I mean, I was at a center not that long ago, and everybody was a university student. And at first, this was in another country. The people, the HR people sort of assumed that everyone could type well. Well, they can type well if it's their cell phone, right? Their smartphone. But in terms of actually typing the way you do on a normal keyboard, that's a different matter. And so some of the people were really having problems and challenged, and they didn't know this about those folks before they hired them because they didn't screen for it. So there are good ways of using technology to do that kind of screening. There's also technology that helps you screen for language skills and competency. And so those are some things that you may think about doing too. Take a little bit of the load off and increase your possibility for success by offloading part of it, the front end part of it, on technology to sort of screen out the folks that you really do want to talk to. And one of the things that I'd add to what Fabrice was saying is that one of the early interviews is really just to make sure that the person has a proper phone presence, because there's some people who look really good on paper, but then are untrainably difficult in terms of their communication style. So communication style is extremely important there too. So those are things I think that you can also use to help out to make sure that you overcome the awkwardness of the times and have success in terms of hiring the right people who will be able to deliver the kind of quality service and that Fabrice is talking about. Fabrice, would you like to add anything to that?
No, absolutely. One thing I would add is as you said, right, there's you also want to consider the channels. We talked about chat. We talked about SMS as potential channels. Showing empathy and being good at understanding intent in those channels can also be challenging. So that should be part of the considerations when you're hiring and looking for folks who will be on the other side responding to customers in those channels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And of course now there's more automation that's going on too, and people are experimenting more and more with chatbots that have these characteristics that we've been talking about. And so there's some very exciting things that are going on there. I think it's overwhelming for many managers to think about some of that stuff. So you have to kind of take the AI, the artificial intelligence part in bites and have to, as a manager, learn about it before you jump in, because there's many people who've jumped in and perhaps gone too far too fast, and it hasn't worked out well. But those who've done it well are rewarded extremely handsomely for that in terms of savings and in terms of quality. So, well, good. I think we're pretty much at the end of our time now. But Fabrice, are there any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience about the topics we've been talking about?
Well, first of all, thank you, Bruce, for this great podcast. It's a fantastic opportunity, and I appreciate you sharing the space with me and with Clarabridge. My parting thought would be to really make sure that our listeners pay attention to that framework, the 3 E's of customer experience, right? Making sure that you focus, track, and measure effectiveness, ease, and emotion will have a massive impact in terms of the customer loyalty that you generate through your contact center and the level of customer experience that you generate. So focus on those, and we'll see you around the corner.
Excellent. Okay, that's great. And the tracking one is also one that, we could spend an entire episode on, because that's so important too. Many of the things that we talked about, including the one on hiring and using tools for screening people, those things should not just be done, they should also be tracked to see if they actually work, because in some cases they'll work better than in others, and you want to obviously hone your best practices so that you actually get the most out of it. So thank you so much, Fabrice. Great episode, and with that, I'll turn things over to Alan to wrap things up.
Yes, thanks again to Fabrice and to Bruce for your insightful discussion on today's show. We hope you can join us next month for another great show, or look at our huge selection of archive shows and hot topics at BenchmarkPortal.com. Then click on Call Talk, where you'll find over 11 seasons. From all of us at Benchmark Portal, keep those headsets steady and your fingers ready. Stay safe and stay healthy. This is Alan Pockhutter signing out. Have a great day.